Office Weekly would love to give you one of theirs. Or go online and pay $1 for it. But stop paying $40,000 for lies. It's time to stop the insanity. Don't wait another day.
Call Wesley now for your free timeshare exit kit. 800-364-7711. That's 800-364-7711. 800-364-7711.
Iran's supreme leader has addressed the ongoing protests in that country, insisting that rioters must be, quote, put in their place. Those comments may signal a more heavy-handed approach cracking down on the demonstrations. President Trump, though, has issued his own warning. On Truth Social, he told Iran's leaders that if it violently kills peaceful demonstrators, the U.S. will come to their rescue.
I think it is meant to signal to the demonstrators that they have the backing of the U.S. president, but is also meant to deter a further violent crackdown from the Iranian security forces. All of that said, Donald Trump has in the past equivocated on the issue of U.S. backing for regime change in Iran. There are also pretty strong domestic political pressures against foreign entanglements.
And that's BBC's Tom Bateman. 8 protesters have been killed so far. The protests were sparked by Iran's struggling economy, and they've been going on now for a week. Breaking news and analysis at townhall.com. This coming week, there are several economic reports due out, which are benchmarks for the U.S. economy. And economist Steve Moore argues there's an overlooked benefit so far to President Trump's expanding economic policies.
If we grow at 3.5%, guess what? We start to bend that curve down. We get more revenues. Did you know look, we still have a deficit that's way too high, but it's coming down already under Trump. I don't know if you're aware of that. The media doesn't tell you that, but the deficit is starting to come down because Trump is growing the economy. When you have more people working, businesses making more money, you get more tax revenues.
Moore spoke this week with the Salem Radio Network. On Monday, the ISM Manufacturing Index is set to be published. Later in the week, we'll get statistics on the job market, including job openings, unemployment, and wages, and also due out reports on the U.S. trade deficit and productivity, as well as factory orders and consumer credit. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Join your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvitt on our weekly radio hour, Chief Guard of the Republic, where we talk about all things national security, defense, personal security, safety, and dealing with law enforcement situations. Call in 847-931-1410. Ask us questions. We will get you answers every week, Saturday, noon to 1 on 1410 AM WRMN Elgin. Streaming on WRMN1410.com. Chat with us on WRMN's YouTube live channel.
Chicago defense attorney Mark Schieblo has co-authored the book titled DUI Jury Trial, which is a true story of a DUI case that he defended. The accused was an Illinois truck driver arrested for driving under the influence of alcohol. This book contains facts about the case from the date of the arrest up to the jury's verdict, and this nonfiction novel also includes the transcripts from the jury trial itself. The book DUI Jury Trial is now available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com.
Fix bayonets, comrades. This is Chief Guard of the Republic radio show with your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvitt. Every Saturday, noon to 1 on WRMN 1410 AM. The Fox River Valley Media Network. Streaming on WRMN1410.com. Our studio number is 847-931-1410. Our text is 505-926-1410. Or hit us up in the YouTube live comments on WRMN's 1410 channel. Hey, Paul.
Hey, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. And what a great start to the new year. But I know we plan to discuss fraud, state fraud of Medicaid, Medicare, and other public aid and social engineering money coming from the federal government being mismanaged by our nice local state governments. But something, I woke up this morning and something had happened that in Venezuela, and it's pretty impressive.
It sure is. Our frequent co-host Marla had contacted me last night, and she said something was going on, and lo and behold, Maduro's on a amphibious ship, and he's heading to Gitmo, and then the FBI's bringing him to New York. So he's gone. And I watched I watched the presser about an hour before us coming on. So I saw all the remarks of the president and raising Cain, the general, and the Secretary of War and the Secretary of State. And a very impressive operation last night was all the combined forces, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, the Space Force. They used 150 planes, and they used drones, and they went. The order was given, I believe it was 10:45 yesterday, and by 2 a.m. it was all over, and Maduro was headed back. So very impressive operation yesterday.
Yeah, and it was pretty much kept in with the special operations community. You know, the Ranger bat was there, the Ranger Regiment, I don't know which battalion, special forces, the people formerly known as Delta, some Navy SEALs and everything. And according to what I heard, like, we only had a couple guys injured. They weren't killed, you know. They were injured.
From what the president said through, I think it was General Cain, one helicopter was damaged, but it was still flyable, and there were no American deaths. There may have been some casualties, but they said it was a phenomenal operation yesterday.
Yeah, and you go back to the day Maduro was taken, to the day, the same 26 years ago, that's when they finally got Noriega out of the Vatican embassy.
Right.
Yeah, so, you know, dates have meaning, even in our country. You know, it's like, it's almost like, hey, what happened, someone there, possibly with psychological operations, because they're the ones that look into that stuff. What is the significance of the day? And you go in and you remember, I remember getting the newspaper, and one of the things I would always check is what happened on this day in history. And they go back to like 4000 BC. 4000 BC, guy found out that a rock is hard, you know? It's documented. Well, this one, you know, Noriega went in. And even in that operation, and we were in Panama, we had the 173rd Brigade down there in Panama. We had Rangers that went in. We had Marines there. We had the Air Force there. We had the Army at Howard, right? Then you had Clark Air Force Base. You had the Army all over. Like, we had the Canal Zone and everything. So we knew about Panama. We've been there forever, right? And we went to take Noriega, and we still had a problem with the Panamanians. We had significant amount of casualties in that operation. And here it's like, oh, 2 people hurt, in and out, gone, done. And we don't have any bases in Venezuela. You know, we're gone. We're in and out, right? And the great thing there is that what are they going to do? Where's the what sort of retaliation can they do? And this is another great thing, you know, taking the playbook from every other regime, right, in the United States, every other regime or president or everything, they love to do things on Fridays. They love to release information on Fridays, or to do something on a Friday and then shut the doors, you know, and say, oh, Saturday, Sunday, hopefully it'll all blow over. People will forget about it by Monday. So we have that right now. They did it on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Monday is going to be the big day for all the news shows and everything else. Everyone else is going to be caught up in football and sports and all that stuff and go to church on Sundays. It's all nice. Then Monday, the news circuit will hit, right, for the broadcast channels. And it's kind of old news, right? But then the guys will get back to D.C., our wonderful representatives and senators, you know, they'll go there and they'll be shaking their fists and you know, pulling their hair out and, you know, ripping their coats open and pounding their chests and saying, I can't believe the president did this without congressional authority. How come he couldn't tell us? How come we couldn't vote on this and everything else? One, because you'd squeal. You'd leak everything. Everything be leaked. It'd all be leaked.
He actually mentioned that in his press conference. He said, I wasn't telling Congress anything because they'd be telling everybody and it wouldn't be secret and Americans would be dying.
Yeah, we had a previous general that said he would call the Chinese and let them know what was going on.
Yeah.
Don't know why that. Well, we'll talk a little bit about stuff like that. But, so, it's a special operations thing. That community is very tight. That community has a little more knowledge about keeping your mouth shut, right? About, how about how about a nice strong cup of shut up, Yeah. And they're good with that, because they realize that protects them. Right? They're protected. If you go in there, you got the element of surprise in and out. On the police department, we used to call it the blue blur. Right? So you'd want a guy, right? You knew this guy was wanted, and you're just patrolman, right? And you're slave to the radio. And no one's told you to do this, but they want you to have activity, make arrests. So you go and you check the warrants, all right? So the front office will have a list of everyone in the neighborhood that has a warrant on them, right? And some of these guys you might know, right? And you might know where they hang out, or where they deal their dope, they sling their dope, or where their baby mama's at, or whatever. And so you would see them there, right? And all you would do is you would drive up, grab the guy, handcuff him, toss him in the cage, right? And drive away as quick as possible. Don't let anyone talk to you. Don't let anyone scream. Don't let the neighbors and everyone else come out and say, why are you locking up so-and-so? He's my cousin, whatever. You can't do that. You're gone. It's the blue blur, right? Guy's got a warrant. You go get him. You're gone, right? So this is the big army the big operation, right? The big Department of War operation equivalent of the Chicago Patrolman's blue blur. Go and get him, get out. That's it. And what a statement. What a statement. Because we have been with the hostilities with Venezuela for a long time, ever since Hugo Chavez had taken over. We've been in open hostilities with them. They nationalized a lot of U.S. corporations' interests that have put a lot of money into this and everything else. And we could talk about, taking the third world and rip-robbing them of their natural resources or whatever. Fine, fine. When you scream about us doing that, you better scream about China doing it too. You better scream about everyone else that does that. But, all right, so we've been in open hostilities with them, and they've invaded our country with almost 500,000 people. Now, they didn't go in with an armed invasion that we know of, right? It was that, look at these poor refugees. Well, most of those poor refugees were emptied right out of his prisons. Probably for political favors. We'll let your guy go, but he's such a
malcontent,
a nincompoop, right? A nincompoop that we don't want him in the country anymore. So if we let him go, he's got to go up to America. That's the deal, right? So suddenly you got 500,000 of these over like 4 or 5 years, right? They come up, and now they've infiltrated. They're in here, and this is the Trinidad, all these gangbangers and everything, which we in the military would call, I'm losing the words. I used to know these words. I used to know them, but I'd lose them then too. Irregulars, all right? They're irregular forces, all right? And they're meant to undermine our country, all right? To undermine our security, to undermine our economics, maybe even undermine our military readiness. So for the last couple months, we've increased open hostility by blasting drug traffickers out of the water. And now people call in, they're fishing boats. Yeah, really? Okay, they're fishing boats. Okay, you owe me $1 million. No, I don't. Well, yes, I have this little note that I wrote to myself that says you owe me $1 million, therefore you owe me. Because that's how much I believe fishing boats. If you believe they're fishing boats, then pay me $1 million because I told you. Right? Right, Paul? Because it's obvious. It's obvious. The sky's blue. No, it's not. Yes, it is. The sky is blue. The sun rises in the morning and sets at night. No, it doesn't. Yes, it does. You know, these are basic things. We breathe oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide. Right? These are facts of life. Those are drug trafficking boats. And you know what they're committing? Chemical warfare on the United States. Chemical warfare on the United States. Right? Fentanyl, cocaine, heroin, anything else coming in with that stuff that's being trafficked through Venezuela, all right, into the Gulf of America and up into the Gulf of America coastline of the U.S., which includes Texas, Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida. And then not only that, but going through the Pacific side, right, where they're coming up into California. All right, so they just bypass Mexico, come up with the boats and land whatever they could, which is always a big chunk of change. But that's chemical warfare against us. But not only chemical warfare, it's a form of economic warfare. Because where did the dollars come from? From our own people. That money is being siphoned off, like something else we're going to talk about, out of our treasury, which includes all the money that everyone holds in the United States, all the U.S. dollars, which are in the United States, are going siphoning off to buy a crap product that might kill you, might not kill you, might make you feel good for a while. That money goes down back to fund these narco-terrorists. So you're funding the narco-terrorists, and that money's coming down. And they're spreading that money out, not back to the United States. They're spending it on weapons that they buy from Russia, China, Iran, whatever, right? Weapons, they're boats from other things. They're not buying stuff in the United States. They're not like moving into the United States and building, spending the money here and redistributing, keeping the money at home. Right? Keeping the money at home. This money is all being flooded over, much like when they. Let me know if I'm. Paul, does this seem reasonable?
Yes, you're speaking the truth.
It's economic warfare. It's a human invasion, all right, where they have irregular forces located now in the United States that we have to go into. The Germans, when they found the resistance fighters in France, they just wipe them out, right? And they would, if something happened to them, they would go to the village and wipe out, 10 people in retaliation for every German soldier. Or those might be stories or whatever. I wasn't there. But the same thing, we have now 500,000 people. Can we trust them? Are they providing for the common defense?
That was kind of addressed in the press conference. He said that some of them really want to stay here and they're okay, and we'll make efforts of that. But he goes, most of them need to go back, and that's.
And now they're complete. They were the first thing they're going to do. First thing they're going to say, right, is that. Oh, we're here because we're politically oppressed by the Venezuelan government, which is an overwhelming government. Okay, so we say, political oppression. Okay, the government's been overturned now. They have a non-oppressive government. Go back. There's no reason for you to be here anymore. You're pretty safe when you go back there. Which
he actually said that we're going to protect the people. We're going to protect our people. And he goes, this is never happening again. And we're not going through this again. We're not letting another crackpot take over. We're actually administering the country with locals. It's going to be done by the military, the State Department, and the locals. And we're investing now. The oil companies are going to go back because, like you said, the infrastructure is so bad. They're going to start rehabilitating the stuff, and they're going to get back on foot. And then as soon as it's ready, we're leaving. But we're going to administer the country so that nothing like this ever happens again. And they were taking most recently, they were taking some of our people hostage. And I think that's one of the things that finally did it. And, they're protecting all those people, and they're protecting the people of Venezuela, the true people.
Yes, and what you're not going to see on Monday, right, is you're not going to see all the Venezuelans that left because of Maduro and because of Hugo Chavez that got out of there, that are living in Florida, that are here legally and everything, that are partying in the streets because that guy is gone out of Venezuela, right? That they're partying, they're like, this is a great thing. There's going to be the press, the legacy media is going to black that out. Because
I predict that the Sunday programs and the Monday news shows, and all they're going to talk about it. Your guy moved, actually.
I know
what they're going to talk about is the fact that Trump said that woman that won the Nobel Peace Prize is not right now capable of running the country. They're going to say that he's disrespecting her, and that's going to be the issue that I see. Well, that's going to be the issue that they're going to highlight now.
All right, so that's a truism there, because she doesn't have a coalition. God knows, who knows what happened to her support base, right? So we went down to Haiti, right? And we got rid of Cedras, and Aristide came in. But one of the things we didn't get rid of was the Haitian police, on account of who else is going to keep this country, calm, right? Who else knows their own people? Who knows how to do it? Were they following the Cedras regime, or are they just independent police? So you still have, we made the mistake in Panama where we fired all their police when we took over, when we threw Noriega out. We initially fired all the police, and we ended up having to bring them back, right? Because we thought they were all Noriega thugs, right? But we ran into a big problem. And now, again, we had been there for a long time. We aren't in Venezuela. So until you get the, what do you call it, the deep state, or the bureaucrats, all right?
The entrenched people.
The bureaucrats that are running the country, all right? The cogs in the system, right? The people that make things run, right? Are they going to be effective under new leadership? Are they going to just stop doing things, go on strike? Then you got to replace. We'll see who's going to be in charge and how they're going to deal, right? How they're going to deal. There could have been, we don't know what the State Department did. We don't know the agreements that the CIA had going on down there, because, they're going to have sources working on that. There's going to be backdoor deals, plea deals, everything else. Promises made. Are we going to keep the promises, or are we just going to betray these people? What's going to happen? It's too soon. But one, we talked about it in one of our first, or some of our first shows, about the presidential authority to do these things. And he has absolute authority. Absolute authority. It's, and it was a law enforcement measure, just like we're saying, why did they send the National Guard to these states and to these cities? Well, the National Guard weren't there to enforce the laws. The National Guard were there to support the law enforcement officers enforcing laws. All right? So why was the Army there? To support the DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency, to go get this guy on a warrant. All right? He's been indicted, right? He's wanted by us, and we says, hey, we're just going to go and get him, because we don't even recognize that he's the leader. We don't recognize him as leader. We think he's just a junta. All right? And it makes me happy. It makes me a little nostalgic. I wish I was back in. I wish I was, I wish I'd back in to have been part of this, to been part of this, because I think it needed to happen. I think it's going to stabilize South America. I think it's going to destabilize even the gangs up here, because they make most of their money and most of the support if they're not doing fraud, social welfare fraud. They're selling drugs, they're enforcing drugs, they're moving drugs. When we stop these from coming in, we're drying up their source of funding. Right, Paul?
You got that right. There won't be that there won't be the cash flow coming in.
Yeah.
So, they're going to be like their own outpost now. And if they can't do it on their own in their local area, and they're not going to get the supplies that they need. So you're going to see some of them either, like you said, transferring or pivoting to other scams, or else they're going to be booking back somewhere else,
Or they might have to get a job.
Right.
Like a real job. And then they would be providing to the economy.
Right.
And they would have to have a social security number and a work permit, and they'd have to get all that. And then a lot of the money would stay here, so people would be getting a benefit of their labor. And cut off the flow, cut the umbilical cord to these gangs. Cut their source of funding coming in. I mean, if you're an ice cream truck and you can't sell ice cream. All right, so we'll be back for the second quarter of the Chief Guard of the Republic radio show with your hosts, Paul Burvitt and Mike Tooman. Want to read some action-packed, exciting pulp fiction? Read the works of Michael Tooman, now featuring the international crime thriller, I Married a Bot Madam. Available on Amazon in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle editions. The paperback is also available at other book retailers. Check out Michael Tooman's webpage at Scilink.net. That's Papa, Sierra, Yankee, Lima, India, November, Kilo, dot, November, Echo, Tango.
Welcome to downtown Elgin, where businesses, community, and creativity come together. The Downtown Neighborhood Association provides valuable, complimentary services to all downtown businesses, organizations, property owners, and residents, helping you gain exposure and thrive. Whether you're already part of the district or exploring a new downtown location, DNA is here to help your vision grow. Join us in creating a vibrant, connected, and successful downtown Elgin. Call now 847-488-1456, or you can email info@downtownelgin.com. Ask for Jennifer Facala. Downtown Neighborhood Association, where the heart of business beats strong.
Is diabetes keeping you from enjoying life's special moments? At US Med, we understand the challenges you face, and we're here to help.
With US Med, I can finally manage my diabetes without it managing me.
US Med offers a wide range of services to simplify your diabetes care. Personalized care plans, convenient access to cutting-edge diabetes tech, and knowledgeable support. Plus, we'll check your insurance so your diabetes care may be covered at little or no cost to you.
With US Med, I feel confident and can control of my diabetes. I can finally live my life to the fullest.
Don't let diabetes hold you back. Choose U.S. Med and experience better birthdays, better adventures, better anniversaries, and better everything. Call now. U.S. Med. Better service, better care. 800-785-1673. 800-785-1673. 800-785-1673. That's 800-785-1673.
When your car is making a strange noise, no matter what it is, you can't just pretend it's not happening.
That's an interesting sound.
It's like your mental health. If you're struggling and feeling overwhelmed, it's important to do something about it. It can be as simple as talking to someone in your community, or just taking a deep, calming breath when you need it. Nice. For mental health resources, check out loveyourmindtoday.org. At loveyourmindtoday.org, you'll find information that may help you get through a tough time. Things like tips for dealing with stress, how to navigate difficulties like financial worries, anger, substance use, and more. You can also find real stories of how people navigated their own mental health challenges. Because once you start to address the problem, you can go so much further. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
Join your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvitt on our weekly radio hour, Chief Guard of the Republic, where we talk about all things national security, defense, personal security, safety, and dealing with law enforcement situations. Call in 847-931-1410. Ask us questions. We will get you answers. Every week, Saturday, noon to 1 on 1410 AM WRMN Elgin. Streaming on WRMN1410.com. Chat with us on WRMN's YouTube live channel. Fixed Bayonets, comrades, we're back for the second quarter of the Chief Guard of the Republic radio show. Your co-hosts Paul Burvitt and Mike Tooman every Saturday, noon until 2, WRMN 1410 AM. Fox River Valley Media Network. We're streaming on WRMN1410.com. Studio number 847-931-1410. That's 847-931-1410 if you want to call in, or you could text us at 505-926-1410, or hit us up in the comments on the Facebook Live WRMN 1410 channel, just like Brendan and Cleveland Dennis have done. Hello, Brendan and Cleveland Dennis. All right, Happy New Year to both of you. I'm glad that you're loyal listeners to the show. And let me do one of the shout outs. You know, of course, they don't have, I got to save one of them because it's like iffy if I'm going to get the TARDIS on there or not. But the Blue Box Cafe, went there for my sandwich and my coffee. Great coffee again, great people, nice people. I want to introduce the Battle Droid Sith Lord here. Haven't given him a name yet. Darth Microphone. There we go. Darth Microphone, the Battle Droid Sith Lord. And giving another shout out to the Dunkin' Donuts veterans, 7039 on Dempster. I think I got it memorized now. Over in Niles, the Dunkin' Donuts. If you are a veteran, all right, and you don't even have to be a veteran. You could be someone that just supports veterans, or you want to speak to the veterans community. You know, it's not a guarantee because Carlos and Roger will have to approve it. But if you want to speak to a group of veterans about something that's important for veterans to know, you come out there Tuesdays. The meeting starts at 9. Guys usually get there between 8 and earlier, man. They're there. There's about 100, at least 100 veterans. It's a great group. Now, January 23rd at Magoo's on the south side is going to be, and if Matt could pull up the Instagram for Ultimate Combat Gauntlet, there's going to be a wrestling show there at Magoo's on January 23rd. That's a Friday. We usually hold the wrestling shows Friday. We had to skip one of the shows in December because, just too busy of a month and everything. And the director of the Ultimate Combat Gauntlet had other things going. All right, but that show starts at 8. Ultimate Combat Gauntlet. You could see their Facebook page, their YouTube. Ultimate Combat Gauntlet on YouTube is awesome because they got all the shows in there. Yeah, you see the wrestling going on. But yeah, I'm highly invested in that, so it's in my best interest that more people show up and see the show and pass it on, because it is a good time. All right, then let me see. That's about all the shout-outs I got right now. All right, so Paul, so Venezuela, good thing. Friday's operation, good thing or bad thing?
Oh, I think generally positive.
Yeah, I think everyone could find something bad with it. After the Panama invasion, I went down there for PSYOPs, and I was the man in the street interviewing people, what they thought of the invasion. And this one girl, she hated it. She said, I says, well, what was wrong with the invasion? She goes, I was too pregnant to loot. Because everything just went, and everyone was looting and everything. You know, people were out running out there, and she was pregnant at the time. But she said she went to and had the baby at a military hospital because nothing was working, and they called, you know, and the military picked her up in the ambulance and took her to military hospital. So she had the baby there. Guess she had complications. Anyway, so that kind of worked out. So now getting in with like hospitals and fraud and everything, you know, I don't know how much I could talk about, but, you know, I saw an FBI investigative files, you know, on shelves in their library of investigative files. And I'd say the bulk of them back in the day were Medicaid and Medicare fraud cases. Like, they really went after this stuff. They were going, I mean, it was important to them back in the day. I don't know what it would look like now, what the files would look like for that now, you know, but it seems like they're getting back to it. But I have to ask you a question, Paul, as a prosecutor. Which, if you had, let's say, a liquor store robbery from 5 years, from what the 3-year statute of limitations, right? And you had a liquor store robbery from yesterday where you got the guy, and you can only prosecute one of them, which one would you choose?
You mean as opposed to a 5-year-old Medicaid investigation or something like that?
Yeah.
Well, the easiest one would be the liquor store robbery because it was right away, and
well, they're both liquor store robberies. Yeah, one was 3 years ago, and one is right now.
Yeah, you'd have the guy that you already have, the present one. You probably go with that one first.
Yeah, and I was thinking like the same way. This fraud has been going on forever, across all the states. There is some fraud going, all right? Just on anytime you have a large chunk of money and you have people who are in the care of that money, distributing that money to be spent for the public, quote, for the public good. Anytime you have that large pool of money, you have a bunch of people around there thinking, how do I get my cut? My cut. They don't care about how the money, they just want their cut of that large pool of money. There's a ton of money there. They're not going to provide, they just want to get their cut of it, right? And then the person, either you have one person or many people that have the overwatch on that, and they're looking at this huge pile of money, but they don't have, they're earning like a micro percentage of that amount of money. But they have control over all that money. And they're looking at it and they're going like, how do I get my cut? There are some people there. So like, I'm in control of distributing funds for daycare centers because it's all about the children, right? So it's all for the children. If we have daycare centers, children aren't going to get beaten. Children aren't going to get starved. Children aren't going to get, we could keep an eye on them. You know, we could have a good overwatch on them. We give them some basic education, some basic socializing. It'll be great. And then their parents go work and earn tax dollars to pay back, and it'll be great in everything. right? So I got a good thing there. And I get all these applications to start up these things, and the only ones that get approved, right, provide my house with, a swimming pool, provide my this and that and everything else, right? All of a sudden I get a shipment of frozen steaks and a giant freezer to keep them in, right? Now, I'm not getting direct dollars there, right? I'm getting kind of gifts and everything. So now my life is drastically improved because I don't got to spend money on food or whatever because I'm providing for myself other ways. Now I could go invest that money and make money and get richer. But who do you think I'm going to provide that Overwatch to? That not Overwatch, but I'm looking out for some people as opposed to others. Who am I going to look out for first?
The guy that's giving you the
guy that looks like me, the guy that comes from the same village as me, the guy from the same clan, the guy that same ethnic makeup, the guy that has the same political leanings that I do first, before I give it to anyone else, right? And I'm distributing this money, and I'm like, look, I got this great scam going, because they look like me and we're all in the same clan and everything, they're less likely to flip on me. So it becomes a cottage industry to certain ethnic groups, whatever, because now I write the plan. This is how you fill out the paperwork. This is what you put down. This is how you submit receipts and everything. I'll rubber stamp it all and you get a check. Right? And because I've said I will approve this only if, and it's understood. So now, it's not only... The fraud isn't on the outside. There's inside fraud there, too. There's that guy in charge of the pile of money. Now, ultimately, that could be the governor. Ultimately, that could be president or whatever. Whoever's in charge of distributing that money through, all right, they should have. And it's being distributed, obviously, to one group. So I would, as a detective, I would be like, that's a clue. Now, is it racist? Is it racist is a BS word, what do you call it? Is it ethnic,
centric?
No,
yeah.
What do you call it? Profiling. Is it profiling?
Whatever.
Yeah, if you don't profile, you're a crap detective. You're a crap detective. Because certain, so you look at that, and I would go to the people in power that are dishing out this money, and I would look for the ones that look exactly like the ones that are making the fraudulent applications for the money. And that would lessen my investigative skills there, because I could go, oh, look, you're making $80,000 a year, and you live in a $3 million house.
I do that all the time, though. When somebody tells me they got 9 cars, 4 houses, 7, I say, oh, and you're working for this, I automatically assume that they're doing something illegal. I mean, that's just the way, because there's no other way it could be done unless they were financially, well off, and they weren't, because I knew them forever. But yeah, I always make that assumption when somebody's got 9 cars, 8 houses, this and that, and they're traveling here, there, and everywhere. You got to make the assumption, because that's the only way it's possible.
Yeah, but the guy there, right? That's why I say, how do you spot the guy that's all right? So the guys stealing the money are a dime a dozen. Who's handing out the dimes, right? Who's handing out the dimes? It's the guy in the government. It's the guy that authorizes, that signs these checks or tells them how to do it. It's the same thing with Social Security disability and some of this stuff. You get the right handshake, and man, you're in. You don't have the right handshake, and they're going to throw the book at you. They're going to throw everything about you. They're going to tell you, oh, no, you could work folding towels in the restroom. Right, Paul?
Oh, yeah.
But this thing, all you had to do was fill out the applications, and bam, there you are. It comes in. And all you got to have is an address and a building, and it's like you could check, oh, yeah, this building is sufficient to handle a daycare center. All right, so you got an address. And then you go to the phone book and you get a bunch of names and you put down these people as your clients, right? And they're sending children never come there. But you send in the bills and you fill out the receipts and everything. You falsify receipts, you send them up. They rubber stamp it and they send the money. No one ever checks on it.
Well, this thing, and I want to digress in a minute for something because it's kind of like off topic, but on topic. So this whole thing in Minnesota started by a YouTuber.
Yeah.
Okay. And
well,
right
he didn't start it. He went viral with his exposure of something that almost everyone knows is happening.
He uncovered it, but all he did was follow the fraud from a previous program relating to food. Because they were pretty much the same. Okay. But what's interesting now is because he's a YouTuber, and right or wrong, the legacy media and the cable media is criticizing him because some of the places he went to may not have been open yet when he went there. And then the other thing is the buildings were locked, but they said you want a daycare center to be locked. So they're criticizing him because of the way he did the investigation, but all he did was follow up on prior convicted fraud people that were in another program.
Yeah, they're convicted of one and they're going to another. Where's the enforcement? Here, what you said, like the legacy media. I'd like to go to that person and go, here's your bill. What? You owe me $1 million. No, I don't. I'm sorry, you're going to owe me $1 million. Pay up.
Right.
Because you believe that place actually serves kids. I like the one story. Oh my God, they created so much hate for the ethnic group that people burglarized the place intentionally because they hated him so much because this guy created hate on the internet or whatever for him. I'm like, no, they made it look like a burglary because they destroyed the records because it's going to be harder to prosecute them if they don't have the paper records.
That's the other point. And I believe in that story, okay, all they stole were the bank records.
There you go. And the funny thing is the bank records are online.
Right. They didn't steal the computers. They didn't steal anything of value. They stole the bank records.
Okay.
And I believe it was noted in the police report that all that was taken, expensive items were bank records. Now, the funny offshoot to this is now there's a controversy now in Seattle over their daycare centers. And all the politicians want everybody to know that we shouldn't target a certain ethnic group.
If you don't, you're a crap detective.
Correct. Now, this reminds me of a story, a true story that we'll just say has no ending. But some years ago, I don't know if there still is or not, there was a program in Cook County, okay, to give you a rebate on your animals' vaccinations, okay?
Yeah, I heard about that, but I should have applied.
Now, this was brought to me at the time by the Cook County Inspector General, okay? And they realized, due to a tragedy, that there was something radically wrong with the program, okay? So what was happening was, and, well-meaning, not well-meaning, there was a certain veterinarian, okay, that was allowing people, certain groups and maybe his staff to trap local feral cats, okay? And they were grabbing them up, and he was performing spay and neuter on them.
Not a bad thing for feral cats.
Right, again, but he was vaccinating them, but he
was charging the county more than it cost him to do it.
No, here's what he was doing. He was charging the county for the rabies vaccines. Okay. And the problem was they were vaccinated and they were spayed and neutered. But what was happening was it was listed as a, dog that lived on Roscoe when it was a cat. Or it was this kind of animal that lived somewhere else and it was a dog. And they were putting the tags on them. I guess they gave them collars as a gift too. But, sometimes a kid was getting bit and they'd grab up the animal and the license, the vax number doesn't match the animal. So now you got a problem.
So he's selling vaccination tags.
Right. So was the dog. So it was a good purpose, okay, but a tragic situation because, now a little kid's got to go through a series of rabies shots when the thing was already vaxxed, but as a cat, not as a dog.
So someone, again, there's a big pool of money there, all right?
Right.
And the guy sees, how can I get at this big pool of money and make as much of it as possible? And he says, well, I got to do these vaccinations. Right? But I only have so many clients coming in, and you only get a rebate on them, right? Well, he was applying for the rebates by doing the vaccinations and saying he did all these vaccinations, but instead of just dumping the vaccinations, right? Supposedly he was giving them to feral cats and stuff, but then he would go sell the vaccination tag to someone. Listen, I'm not going to give your dog the shot, but here's a tag for $10. So he's making money off the tags, and yet the county assumes that the vaccine was given. Yeah, that's brutal, right? And, okay, a veterinarian, Paul, has a doctorate's degree.
I know.
Right? So are they incompetent? Well, they could be financially incompetent. They could have gambling stuff and everything, but they're not. So are they complicit? Yes. All right. And you can have good things and everything, but yeah, you're talking that there's a bad thing there. And it comes back to when you institute, the Army called it good idea fairies, right? And Congress does this, and the states do it, and the state legislatures do it, and governors push it through. They push through these nonsense bills, right? Oh, we just had a mass shooting. Well, let's push a bill through that says it's illegal to have a mass shooting. Oh, look, we pushed this bill through, and the governor's signing it. Let's see, it's now illegal for mass shootings in Illinois. Well, it's illegal to kill anyone in Illinois to begin with, to shoot anyone in Illinois to begin with, but they passed a useless bill, right? Or better yet, to show how these things go when there's no funding involved, right? Or here, all right, let me get the choo-choo train in order, right? Everything lined up, my ducks in a row, all right? I passed this bill that says mass shootings are illegal in the state of Illinois, all right? I get it through the legislature. Legislature gets all up there. And in order to enforce this, at the same time, they create a fund paid for by taxing, they already tax ammunition, but throw in another tax on ammunition, right? Throw a tax on ammunition. They have a fund that taxes ammunition, right? Taxes shooting ranges, right? They have this fund, and they create the Department of No Mass Shootings, right? And the governor says, hey, we created this, and we created this Department of No Mass Shootings, and now they got this big fund of money. And I hire my nephew Leroy and my uncle Bubba, right? And my niece Ellis, right? All to work at this thing. And what did they do? They mimeograph paper for, $1 per 1,000, right? And they send them out to the schools. And they're getting $120,000 a year to do that, right? Out of this fund. So I'm creating a thing, I'm funding it just to collect my thing because they're not worth $120,000 a year. Each of them is going to kick me back another $40,000 a year. So they're making 80, I'm getting 120, tax-free and a kickback. That's the thing. That's useless laws. That's useless stuff. But the press goes up there and they look like they love the people and everything, but no one follows the money, no one follows the corruption, no one follows the tax dollars that they're thieving, right? Take that $120,000, take that big fund that you got there, and when you got a guy with mass shooting, use it to fund his permanent incarceration and isolation. Use that money to fund permanent incarceration. So now you don't have to worry about where the funding's coming to put these people in prison. And we'll be back for the second half of the Chief Guard of the Republic radio show. Want to read some action-packed, exciting pulp fiction? Read the works of Michael Tooman, now featuring the international crime thriller, I Married a Bot Madam. Available on Amazon in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle editions. The paperback is also available at other book retailers. Check out Michael Tooman's webpage at Scilink.net. That's Papa, Sierra, Yankee, Lima, India, November, Kilo. November, Echo, Tango. Join your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvitt on our weekly radio hour, Chief Guard of the Republic, where we talk about all things national security, defense, personal security, safety, and dealing with law enforcement situations. Call in 847-931-1410. Ask us questions. We will get you answers. Every week, Saturday, noon to 1 on 1410 AM WRMN Elgin. Streaming on WRMN1410.com. Chat with us on WRMN's YouTube live channel.
Your hometown radio station since 1949. We are WRMN AM 1410 Elgin time, 1 o'clock.
Breaking news at Town Hall. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. President Trump addressed the nation this morning about the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. It's a man he says was a kingpin of a massive criminal enterprise and not a duly elected leader.
For many years after his term as president of Venezuela expired, Maduro remained in power and waged a ceaseless campaign of violence, terror, and subversion against the United States of America, threatening not only our people, but the stability of the entire region.
And the president says the U.S. will now help Venezuela to revive its oil industry. And he says the Venezuelan people will be made rich, independent, and safe as a result. Some Venezuelan expats living in Doral, Florida, like that idea. They celebrated news of Maduro's capture. This woman hoping for the best for those still living in her home country.
I'm hoping for the Venezuela is good, first of all, because I was scared for people there. Still, there was some bombing, so who knows who was affected by them. But I'm hoping for peace of all, for being able to celebrate with my family and reunite with my family there, still have family there, and to see them again.
Meanwhile, anti-regime demonstrations continue to spread in Iran. Public policy expert Matt Continetti says it proves that President Trump's critics are once again wrong about the impact of his policies.
After Operation Midnight Hammer, our strike on the Iranian nuclear facilities, the commentariat all pronounced that this would strengthen the regime, that Iranians would rally to the regime. In fact, the exact opposite has happened, and the Iranian people are showing their frustration
More on these stories at townhall.com.
My name is Whitney Allen. I am a widow. My husband, Ryan, died. We never thought in a million years we'd have to use life insurance. The unexpected happened. With Ethos, it is so fast and easy. It's 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage, no medical exams, and you can get up to $3 million worth of coverage through Ethos.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/term. That's ETHOS.com/term.
Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
Hi, this is Rhett Rasmussen of BestHotGrill.com. We make the amazing Solaire infrared gas grills that are built to last and will consistently deliver better than restaurant grilled food. The Solaire infrared burner heats up to 1,000 degrees in just 3 minutes, even in the dead of winter. The high heat locks in the juices and flavor and grills food faster. Learn more about these fantastic USA-made grills at BestHotGrill.com. Solaire hot, fast grills at BestHotGrill.com.
The Oxford Bus Company in the UK is taking inventory. The company says it has some 4,000 lost and found items it collected in 2025.
Keys, mobile phones, umbrellas, purses, and wallets are among the most common items. But there are things like a bag of rubber ducks, a box of fortune cookies, an inflatable dinosaur costume, a jar of pickled onions, a bicycle tire, and a 22-pound bag of rice. The company says misplacing a personal item can be a stressful experience, and using technology, they return up to 23% of those items.
That's Bill Alexander. Economist Steve Moore says President Trump is proving his critics wrong.
We're going to end the year with the last 3 quarters being about 4% growth. That's double. That's double what all the economists said. Do you remember?
Moore made his comments at the Salem Radio Network. On Monday, the ISM Manufacturing Index is set to be published. Later in the week, we get a look at the job market, including unemployment and wages. Breaking news and analysis at townhall.com. The American Kennel Club adds 3 more breeds to its recognized list.
One of the newcomers is the Teddy Roosevelt Terrier. Another, the Russian Svetnaya Balanka, a lapdog developed in Soviet-era Russia. The third, a centuries-old French hunting hound called the Basset Fauve de Bretagne. The AKC now recognizes 205 breeds. Recognition means eligibility for many U.S. dog shows and can increase a breed's visibility to the pet-loving public. Julie Walker, New York.
Her name is Diane Crump, and she has passed away at the age of 77. If you've never heard of her, she became the first woman to ride professionally in a horse race back in 1969. 1 year after that, she became the first female jockey ever in the Kentucky Derby. Churchill Downs said in a statement, Diane Crump will be forever respected and remembered in horse racing lore. More on these stories at townhall.com.
I know that hiring can be challenging. You need someone to match your role perfectly. Well, now you can meet them fast on ZipRecruiter.
Build your team, build it sooner. Meet your match on ZipRecruiter.
Just head to ZipRecruiter.com/free right now to try it for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Meet your match on ZipRecruiter. Try it free.
Clutter happens, but junk doesn't have to weigh you down. At the Junk Luggers, we're your full-service junk removal and hauling pros, tackling everything from single-item pickups to major cleanouts. We handle the heavy lifting, and with our commitment to the green way, we rehome and recycle to keep your unwanted items out of landfills. So, whether you're clearing out the garage, downsizing, or saying goodbye to old furniture, we make the process eco-friendly and easy. Call 1-800-LUG-JUNK or visit junkluggers.com today. Let's save your space and the planet together.
Fix Bayonets, comrades. This is Chief Guarded Republic Radio Show with your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvitt every Saturday, noon until 2, WRMN, 1410 AM, the Fox River Valley Media Network. Streaming on WRMN1410.com. Your studio number here is 847-931-1410. Our text is 505-926-1410. Or you could hit us up in the YouTube live comments on WRMN 1410's YouTube channel. Hey, Paul, what you said before, it even makes it easier if I was an investigative detective, right? So you said that this Nick guy, he goes out and he knows of, because it's public, once they're convicted, right? It's in the public record. So they're convicted of this fraud, and they're given, double secret probation or, probation or a small fine. Let's see, you stole $250 million. Bad. Here's $1,000 fine.
Right.
And you got to do, we're going to give you 1 year and we're going to give you 2 years in prison, but we're going to suspend it if you do community service for 3 hours, right? Stuff like that. And he follows these, and they're on another fraud bit, a slightly different fraud bit, right? One is to feed the children, the other is to take care of these children during the day. How did suddenly they get approved? How come they filled out all the paperwork perfectly? How come they got approved and they're sending in all these things and they're getting the checks all over again? Is it that they're that good at fraud, or is it the person handing out the money again to the same group of people?
Well, and I know we're not political or anything. Okay, we're really not. But the dude running the state almost was our vice president. I mean, this should tell you that there's rapid and vapid corruption in all these places, and nobody's vetting it. And it's just go along to get along. Whatever. A prior president, I think it was Obama or whatever, he moved these Somalis all over. He moved them in, and he moved them to states or whatever. And, now,
key areas.
Wasn't that the place where we had Black Hawk Down and all that stuff, But we moved those folks here, and we put them in places, that a lot of people don't care about, either real cold or really sparsely populated places, right? And, they kind of entrenched themselves, and, they go back and they get their cousin Budaya, and they say, we got a good thing going here. And, we got the local guy from the city council in our pocket, and his goal is he wants to move from city council to state rep, and then he wants to be, governor or senator or and so they, the local politicians, festered this, and we're talking billions of dollars here.
Billions.
This isn't chump change, okay? This isn't, like I think, what was it? Everett Dirksen said, a billion here, a billion there. It adds up. Yeah. And this is money.
But hey, wait, Paul. It's not just money, all right?
Right.
It's money on margin.
Right.
They're not just stealing $1 billion. We'll be paying interest on that $1 billion that they stole forever until it's all paid off.
Great grandchildren will be paying.
They keep,
You're right.
all right, they keep stealing. All right. So what do you need to do? You need to get that money back. First of all, here's the thing. It's a pyramid scheme, right? There's a pyramid on this, all right? So the first one's in with the fraud, make their millions of dollars, and they're gone, all right? I used to think on the police department, someone would say, like an ethics question, how much would have to be in the suitcase for you not to turn that money in and inventory it, for you to keep the money? It was a simple answer back then. It's probably double now, but it was $5 million. If I took $5 million, right, and went overseas and put in an investment account, I'd be making $250,000 a year. I could live very well off that. $5 million is a nice even number, right? You can still live very comfortably off that now, right, and not even touch the principal of the money that you kept, all right? So this is an ethics question, what has to be going on in your head. And, oh, my God, that detective, he's so unethical, he even thought about it. No, I put a minimum payment. That's minimum for me to think about it. If there was $4,999,999,999.99, I'd inventory it. It'd have to be at least $5 million before I even thought of taking it, right? So let's say they got their $5 million. They said, okay, it's like manage your money on the crap table. Right? You're on a roll. You're on a roll. You're on a roll. You got a big chunk of change. Cash in, walk out. Right? So a lot of these people cashed in and walked out on the fraud. And then what do you do with your fraud? All right, you don't leave that behind. You don't leave that behind. That's cash on the table right there. You sell it to one of your brethren in the same clan. They got some seed money. They buy the fraud off you, so you still make money off that. You have no loss of your initial investment in the building or whatever in the fraud. You take that money overseas, you're living like a king. Now, how do we get that money back from overseas? Well, it's a little thing about using artificial intelligence and being a good detective, right? Following the money trail, which is all in the banks, right? All in the receipts, all in the checks that were written, right? Get that all out, follow the money trail, find out who it belonged to, right? Who went overseas, who opened the account, get that person, find out what banks they're using. All these banks operate in the United States. Tell the bank they're to freeze that guy's assets and return them to the U.S. government, or that bank no longer operates in the United States. We don't care. Right? We don't care. You're gone. Who's got the most money to push around? Well, we do. That bank doesn't operate in the United States. It loses. It absolutely loses. You don't do any transactions with any U.S. banks. We put you on that, right? And I would strong arm them. I'd absolutely strong arm them because that's our money. And the banks can't say, oh, well, you know, no, you don't need proof. We're going to tell you that. All right? We're going to go in. We're going to take it. Give us the money back. At least get most of the money back. There's some that you won't be able to get back. People thieve all the time, and they just blow the money. And how are you going to get it back from the drug dealer that sold them the coke, right? But there are ways to get this some of the money back, some of it back, right? At least some of it, and put that back in a coffer, right? Or pay it against the national debt, right? Obviously, we didn't need those child care centers, right? They weren't used. So now you funded all this money. We got the money back. We're paying off the national debt with it. All the fraud money we get back goes to pay off the national debt. Now, the thing, you know, again, when they had DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, right? What happened to that? The backstories, the court jesters plan. I mean, in court, the judges in court and everything. You know, oh no, you have to allow so much fraud. I'm sorry, I'm putting an injunction against eliminating fraud because you know you have to do this through other things, and like I got to give chance for my cohorts to get away with this stuff or whatever. Yeah, a judge that puts an injunction on fraud, on stopping fraud, what is he? Complicit or incompetent?
That's a judge in today's day and age, man.
Well, he's two things. He's incompetent,
right,
and he's complicit. Neither of which is acceptable, and he should be. It should be gone. It's like if we had a real press, right? They'd be laughing at him. They'd be laughing at that judge. There'd be all sorts of stuff about him. He'd be out there like, how dumb can you be? You're legalizing fraud? Hardworking people paying their tax dollars for people, you know, fraudulently stealing it? Because, you know who should be ashamed? You know who we should be ashamed, Paul?
The people who vote him in, that's for one. And
but even more. You wouldn't ever think of this group, but I think they should be totally ashamed. The Romani. You know why?
Yeah.
Because they've been doing, they're nickel and dime compared to these guys. They're pikers. They're ham and eggers. These guys are big thieves, right? And they're only little thieves. Comparatively, they should be ashamed. They should up their game. It's so easy.
Well, you think this is funny, but it's not.
I don't think it's funny. I'm sick.
In reality, though, this has been going on forever. So there was whatever the branch court that was hooked up with Area 3 over there. I don't remember which 42. One it was. All right, and I'm
44
talking
and
about
42.
42. So I was working the branch courts, and Eddie Mack brought me a case, and it was like kind of like a gypsy case, you know. The woman, you know, the offender, she kind of told the guy his money was cursed, and he had to get a chicken, you know, and he had to keep it as a pet for 28 days or something like that. And then after he kept it as a pet, he had to like blow into its mouth and, you know, blow its lungs out, and then, you know, the curse would be waived, you know. And she kept charging him for this and everything. So Eddie brought it as like a gypsy fortune-telling case right there. And, you know, I'm putting the evidence on it. You know, it was very painful. The guy was real embarrassed. His kids were there. It sounded kind of goofy, but it was true, you know. And I get the judge telling me he's finding no probable cause. And his basis was, well, we don't know what supernatural powers the fortune teller has, you know, and he took it like it was for real. And I said, Are you
how
serious?
many chickens has that judge blown up?
I have no idea, but you know, and that prompted me for years to go on a quest. Okay. And I said this to every single investigator that I had, because this kind of encapsulates everything, okay? And I said, you know, hypothetically, I said, I'm going to solicit investments from people, okay? But not through the phone or through the mail, in person. And I'm going to keep it real simple. I'm going to take 100,000, and I'm going to promise you that I'll do my best to invest the money, but I never promise you you're going to make money.
Yeah.
Okay. And I take your 100,000, and I keep 10,000 for me to do like fun stuff, and your 90,000. I'm going to invest in a CD with my name on it and your name as the pay on death. And then I'm going to take your 10,000 that you gave me, and I'm going to do all kinds of fun stuff. I'm going to the racetrack. I'm going to the casino. And, you know, I might win big. And then whatever I win, I'll keep half and I'll give you half. And, you know, at the end of whatever term the investment is, you either got 90,000 plus interest, or you made a little bit more, or you made more. And I said to them, now, how in reality is that different than what these people are investing in? Because it's not through the mail. It's not wire fraud.
Yep.
I've invested their money.
Not postal fraud.
It's nothing. And I said, how is that different? And I said, and they could win big. And I said, and you know what the upside is? Even if I lose everything, you're still getting 90% of your money back, which is better than some stocks. And number two, no one's going to take that case, because they're going to say, you just lost 10% of your money. You didn't lose 100. And you know what? That's the rationale. I mean, you got to think about it. You invest in a business, you could lose all your money. You invest in a business, you could lose half your money. You invest in a business, you could make money. So what's the difference? You know, I mean, your money's safe. I'm not holding it. Somebody else is. You know, I don't have it. It's for your benefit.
Are you a member of the guild?
No.
Okay, so here's the thing. The guilds get together and they protect themselves. All right? from other people doing exactly what you're saying, all right? So first, in order to do that, you have to be a member of the guild. You have to become a fiduciary, because that's what fiduciaries do, all right? They take the money, and they're supposed to do, in the best interest, make money for you. But they take a payment for making that money, right? And 10% up front. So you're not a fiduciary. So the fiduciaries, right, the guild of these fiduciaries go to the politicians, right, who the state legislatures and put in this bill saying you have to be a fiduciary to do certain things, right? And they write it up. It's 1,000 pages. No one knows because it was the Guild of Fiduciaries that wrote it up, but these legislatures never read it. They just talk to their friends. They get their caucus. They get their caucus together and say, we're pushing this through, but no one's read it yet. We don't care. It's a good thing. Trust me, it's a good thing. And then they go to the governor and says, oh, we passed this, and the governor signs off on it and everything. And now all of a sudden, because they passed that law there through the legislature, what you did is illegal because the fiduciary said it was illegal because you're encroaching on their territory. All right? That's the guild. All right? You went up against the guild. You're not a member of the guild. They'll all turn on you, and they'll be watching for stuff like this, and they'll make sure you're prosecuted to make an example of. That's what you have going in these fraud cases, not Minnesota, but everything. You're going to find that there's certain groups, there's certain clans that get together, right? And they said, this is our scam, right? This is our scam. And they're going to run that scam, right? And they're going to keep everyone out of it. When that scam fails, another scam will come up, all right? Someone will find another pile of money, and they'll go, hey, here's how you get this money. It's just having the code to the ATM. But the person with the code is in the government there. You got to track down that person with the code. And you have to hammer them. Like, if $1 gets misspent out of money that's meant for unfortunate, hungry, uneducated children, that money is meant for children and was pushed through as for children to help children, and you took that dollar from that poor, starving children's hand, you go to prison for life. Flat out. You're gone. You make it so terrible. You make it so awful. Not only do you put it as a criminal thing, you put it as a civil thing, right? And whatever all the scammers stole because you had overwatch over that, you were supposed to protect that money to make sure it was spent right, they seize all your assets. And now your children are starving and need that program that you destroyed. But you're in prison. Your family has no assets because it was seized to pay that money back. Then, guess what happens now? If you do that, if you have enforcement, if you have just enforcement, right? Not like, oh, I worked with Billy Bob for years. I'll tell you what, he's such a nice guy. And look at his family and everything. He's got wonderful kids and a wonderful wife. And, he's a good member of the community. Yeah, he made a mistake. Should we punish him for the rest of his life? Yes, absolutely. Yes, you should. Because if you don't, Billy Bob's going to do it again. But not only that, the next person that gets in, if Billy Bob gets fired, because if the worst thing that happens to him is he gets fired, the next person comes in and says, how much did Billy Bob make? Billy Bob's got a $4 million house, a swimming pool. He's driving top-notch Escalades and everything. He eats at the finest things. Yeah, he got fired from his job, but his 401k is huge, right? He never has to work a day in his life. I want that job. I'm going to do the same thing. And I'll take the slap on the wrist. I don't care. I mean, if they said, we're going to pay you $25 million to go in the ring against Mike Tyson, right? I'm in there. Right? And that would be legitimate money, right? That'd be legitimate. People will tell you, I'll go in the ring with them. I don't care. I'll take a beating. Maybe he'll kill me, maybe he won't. Maybe he'll knock me senseless. But at least I'll already have a trust written up for where that money goes. So unless you really come down back in the Old West, what did they do to a horse thief?
They shot him.
They shot him or they hung him, right?
Right.
You'd be convicted of stealing a horse, and the judge will order you be sentenced to death for stealing the horse. You would get hung, sentenced to be hung for stealing a horse. You rob a bank, and the judge might give you 5, 10, 20 years. But you steal a man's horse, that's his mean of transportation, that's his mean of employment, that's everything to him, right? That's a big investment in his life. You're destroying that man's life because you think you need that horse, right? You're gone, right? You're taking money from children, but not only that, again, you're taking money from the taxpayers, but not only that, you're taking it from future taxpayers because we still got to pay interest on that stolen money. You know, that's what gets me.
Right.
You're thieving everyone. And you got these news media saying, well, you know, there are kids in there, but they locked the doors. They wouldn't let anyone in because there were kids in there. Well, that might be true. That might be true. Why don't you call them up and tell them, have them Zoom the kids in now? Put them in. Well, you don't want little kids. You don't want their pictures out there either, right? It's such a, you always got that plausible deniability, and you got that shield of, we got to protect the children. What children? Prove it. Yeah. I mean, they sat out there. No kids went in and out.
I'd like to know how much per child they're paying for this care, if it's real.
Probably as much as Chicago pays to educate a child.
For one state, for an area of one state, and they're paying billions?
Yep.
That's ridiculous. That's got to be the most inefficient alone. Even if it was legit and for real, that's got to be the most outrageous waste of a boondoggle I've ever seen.
No, okay, so yeah, it is absolute waste. It is absolute waste. We're coming up on a hard break, but here's the thing, Paul. Okay, you know it's wasteful, right? But there's already evidence that not all that money was taken overseas. Not all that money was spent on cars and houses and everything. Some of that money went to political donations.
Oh, exactly. That's exactly what's going on.
Why is it so much money? Because if I need $1 million and I only get a 10% kickback, how much money do I have to make available to the people stealing the money to get my 10% kickback of $1 million?
10,000.
10 million. I gotta have 10 million out there, right?
Yeah.
So as a politician, I gotta make sure there's 10 million out there because I need $1 million. Will these politicians or political organizations, once it's proven that money was all gathered by fraud, pay it back?
No.
I dare them to. They should. Or they should go to prison too. Money laundering.
Right.
They should have known. They should have known. All right? They should have known. That's the thing. Either you're incompetent or you're complicit because you should have known. All right. Heartbreak. See you back.
If you turned 65 recently like me, it's important you find a Medicare Advantage plan that gives you the coverage you're looking for. But finding one can be difficult. The best thing I did, and I suggest you do the same, is call a licensed insurance agent and let them walk you through your Medicare Advantage plan options. There are so many benefits you have access to, so make the call now and let the representatives explain everything to you. Our licensed insurance agents can offer you a variety of Medicare Advantage plans. Plus, the call is free, the information is free, and there's no obligation to enroll. We're here to make it easy for you to select a Medicare Advantage plan that may work for your needs. Finding a Medicare Advantage plan can be easy if you do what I did. Make a quick call right now to learn more. Thank you.
800-433-3082. 800-433-3082. 800-433-3082. That's 800-433-3082.
Political party poopers got you down? Shake it off and join me, Dennis Sonar Green, every weekday from 4 to 6 p.m. on WRMN for A Political Talk Show, where we cut through the doom and gloom with a focus on America first, constitutional values, and a populist perspective that puts you, the citizen, at the center of the conversation. At WRMN, the talk of the town, we're not afraid to challenge the status quo and bring you the straight talk you need. Whether you're frustrated with the political establishment or looking for a clear, some nonsense analysis, this show has you covered. Tune in. Let's take on the issues together with a fresh, unfiltered approach. Catch us every weekday from 4 to 6 p.m. on WRMN, a political talk show. WRMN, the talk of the town.
Ever tried balancing a dozen eggs in one hand while hopping on one foot? Or maybe juggling cats while riding the unicycle? Sounds ridiculous, right? But guess what? That's exactly what texting while driving is like. Your human brain only has the capacity to focus on one thing at a time. So when you're behind the wheel, give driving your undivided attention.
Don't drive distracted. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Oh, could this vintage store be any cuter? Right? And the best part? They accept Discover. Accept Discover? In a little place like this? I don't think so, Jennifer.
Oh, yeah, huh? Discover's accepted where I like to shop. Come on, baby, get with the times.
Right, so we shouldn't get the parachute pants?
These are making a comeback. I think.
Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. Based on the February 2025 Nielsen report.
Here on WRMN AM 1410, we like to keep you informed and in tune to what's happening here in the Fox River Valley and what's going on here on WRMN. We recognize the importance of local radio to be a part of the conversation and to be a part of the community for the community.
You know, we talked about the importance of community theater, but supporting community radio is a big deal too. And, you know, for WRMN, this is a really cool thing that you guys do every day and a really important thing. You have to have a local media outlet to talk about what's going on in your town. So you guys do a nice job.
Tune in to AM 1410, WRMN. Don't forget, you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/WRMN Radio. Keep in tune and informed on what's happening here in the Fox River Valley, right here on WRMN.
Fixed bayonets, comrades. This is Chief Guard of the Republic radio show with your co-hosts Paul Burvin and Mike Tooman every Saturday, noon until 2 on WRMN 1410 AM, the Fox River Valley Media Network, streaming on WRMN1410.com. Our studio number, 847-931-1410. Text 505-926-1410 or hit us up in the comments on Facebook Live, WRMN 1410 channel. So, it's not just Medicaid fraud. It's not just Medicare fraud. It's not just food stamp fraud. It's not just, you know, pandemic level feeding the children fraud. It's not daycare fraud. I mean, we have daycares in Chicago, and I work child abuse cases, so I was in and out of these things all the time. They're legitimate daycares. What got me about the fraud was that there were girls, women, babies. These babies, these are newborns. They're like a month old. And they come in the morning to daycare. Place opens at 8 o'clock in the morning. They come pick up their kids at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. If they come and pick them up. A lot of the calls were because they didn't come and pick them up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They'd waddle in there 4:15. They'd waddle in there 4:30, 5 o'clock or whatever. It's like, you know, no big deal to them. The daycare centers weren't getting paid extra to watch these kids for an extra hour or whatever. But this person didn't have a job, wasn't going to school. So they were at home, not taking care of their baby, right, for 8 hours of daytime television, sleeping off a drunk or whatever. And they still couldn't come in and get their kid. All right. So they were actually watching kids. All right. But they're watching kids for people that really didn't have a reason to have those kids being watched. They were independent. They were getting public aid money to live, for food and everything. They had nothing but time to watch the child. The program was put there so that they could go to school. so that they could get a job, right? Become productive members of society and not have to be. Well, that worked for 1% of them. The other 99 was just like, oh, well, this is good. And why do they get away with it? Because they're allowed to get away with it. The first time they show up at 4:05 and they don't collect their kid, right? It's a warning. It's a yellow card, right? It's a warning, yellow card. Second time they do it, they're dropped from the program. Watch your own kid. Teach them something. There's got to be. But this fraud goes across every single government program, not just social programs. The movie Lords of War or War Dogs, I think. No, not the Dogs of War. No, it was about two guys that they became government Department of Defense contractors for logistics, for material logistics. Okay. And they said, well, we can only charge them so much per washer or nut that they need, right? But the shipping and handling charges were astronomical. So each nut that they needed for the Bradley fighting vehicle cost, let's say they're just regular nuts, right? And they cost $1 each, because they got to be high tensile steel. You got to be certain things. And, my buddy, he worked in the industry that made nuts for, aircraft and made nuts for the M1 Abrams, right? And he says everything's got to be to perfect tolerances, right? And if they're not the perfect tolerances, we lose it. That whole batch is gone, right? And these are titanium and everything, very important metal. So everything's on there. So those things could be quite expensive. But let's say it's $1 nut and they need 1,000 of them, right? So I charge them $1.10 because my cost is $1. I want a 10% markup. So $1.10, that seems reasonable. I'm underbidding everyone. And they go, oh, this is great. You underbid, right? So they buy my $100,000 nuts for $110,000. And then I charge them $150,000 delivery. And they pay it. They pay it. They already put the bid on it. It didn't include delivery, did it? And they pay it without blinking an eye. And this is free money coming to me because I know the system. I'm playing game in the system. Who am I stealing from?
The taxpayers.
That's right. And since it's all deficit spending, I'm stealing from the future taxpayers. Yeah, so they go hammer on these guys. Hammer them. That's ridiculous. The midterms are coming up in November.
Real fast.
What?
Real fast.
November. That's a long time. That's 11 months.
The primaries are in the next month or two in a lot of places.
Yeah, that's primary.
Yeah.
That's you already know the party picks them, right? There's going to be there might be a few candidates from each party, right, that have been marked for destruction because they're not towing the party line, right? They've been marked for destruction. So there may be some tight primaries there, which would be funny because if the ones that are marked for destruction destroy their opponent, right, and win, that's a real weakness in that party. But, all right, if the Republicans, as opposed to the Democrats, all right, they're all, until they prove otherwise, it's the same party. It's the Democrats, or it's the Democrat and Republicans, all right? Until they pass a law, let's say, what's the most inefficient, the worst secretary department in the worst secretary department in the executive branch, Paul? Marla might not agree with me.
Education?
Yeah, Department of Education. Consistent loser. Nothing's ever improved. It's only gotten worse, and the money has been pushed up and spent more and gotten worse, spent more and gotten worse. It's like the worst, right? So why don't we replace that? Because I think education should be grassroots. I don't think the federal government, who has no idea about Chicago, has no idea about Los Angeles, or no idea about rural central Illinois, right, should make an overwhelming one-size-fits-all policy. I think the policy should be made by the local people.
Can I just interject on a little education story? I have a friend of mine who's got a child that's having a little bit of a problem in a suburban school district, okay? And, there's a question on whether they homeschool them or not, And I suggested to them, and something that I had seen on television a while ago, there's a program called Penn Foster. And I kind of found out about this because I think the military people kind of use this too. And it's both for primary school and high school and college, right? And it turns out it's a legitimate school, okay? Or what appears to be. I said, why don't you look into this? So he looked into this, and he got some flack from the family, And to be honest with you, it was only like $1,500, okay? But he had a friend whose daughter was having a similar situation at another school. So he had imparted the information on the friend. And you want to know something? The girl signed up for she was 15 at the time. In the interim, in the 3 months, I guess she turned 16. She signed up for the Penn Foster School. She was a sophomore. She graduated high school, and this month she started in college.
Nice.
And they're able to do this for $1,500.
Okay, so
not $80,000 per student, not $35,000 per student. She did 2 years of high school in 3.5 months.
Yep.
And she's in college now.
Yep. It's just it's just a babysitting service. That's all it is now.
And I brought this up to a relative of mine who's in education. He goes, well, I don't know if that's a good idea. They're not getting socialized. What social skills do you want them to have? Who cares?
Here, Paul, all right, so there's a great school in central Illinois, just north of Bloomington, and just west of Pontiac. And I forget the actual name of Fraser or something. Not Fraser. That's in Michigan. But forget the name of the town. But the school is the Salem School for Boys. All right. And it's a boarding school for kids that have issues. All right. They have some, not physical issues, not mental, intellectual disability issues, but kind of behavioral issues. And it's kind of locked down, but not really. But they're in the middle of nowhere, so these kids, they'd have to walk like 20 miles to get anywhere, and then the police would pick them up and bring them back anyways. But all right, the kids go to school on an online program, and they have a moderator there, right? A moderator that helps them make sure that they're on the computer doing this stuff, right? And they're watching them, right? And they're self-paced, and they're not slowed down by the kid eating paste, right? And they're not slowed down by whoever's doing belly dancing on the teacher's desk. They can't stop them. And they're not slowed down by the drunk kid or whatever. They're not slowed down. They either you are that kid or you're the kid that's trying to get by, right? And it's a good program. And these online programs, self-paced programs are good. One, you need a moderator like parents. Parents got to moderate this stuff. They got to make sure you're doing the work, right? But yeah, that's good. But let's say take the Department of Education, take the funding for the Department of Education, and now create the Department of Government Efficiency. DOGE. I think that's a big thing. Right. You know, people are made out to be tyrants. They're made out to be goofs. They're made out to be people on power trip all the time. That's one of the things the press will do. They'll make you into a villain, right? They want to make you into a villain, especially when you're doing good work and stuff. So if you spend a little bit of money up front to make sure that these programs that Congress in places, right, and that are pretty much administered now by the executive branch, because Congress authorizes the spending, the executive branch does the spending, right? And it goes through the secretaries, right? And now you send these guys out, DOGE, to make sure before one penny is spent that it's being spent properly, right? To say, hey, did anyone go out and look at this building? Look, I did a Google search on these kids. They all live in the same house, all 350 of them, or whatever, right? You know, these are just names off of a phone book or whatever. Show me these actual people, right? Because you just made the stuff up. And say, hey, we're not paying you out a dime. You went through all this work to support this, and anyone that authorizes this is complicit. So people, if you don't have any Overwatch, or you know that you're Overwatch, if I'm the Klan member that's getting all my other Klan members to take this, and I know my boss isn't going to do anything against me because he's afraid that I'll call him the R word, you know, retarded, or whatever, right? He's afraid that it'll be called the R word, or I'll make it look bad and everything. And that's exactly what happened in Minnesota. It's exactly what happened in Minnesota. Is one of these guys said, you're only going after the Somalis because you're racist. That was 4 years ago. And all of a sudden, they backed off because they used the R word on them. Oh, no, yeah. I don't want to look like the bad guy, but it was true. Well, who else is committing the fraud? Right? Who else is committing the fraud? Show me. Oh, look at there's one run by the American Indians, or there's one run by, you know, Hispanics, or there's one, and guess what they have in their daycares, their learning centers? Kids. You know how bad it is? They can't even get the kids from their own community in there.
Right.
They got to have hundreds of kids. Just throw them in there. Well, they don't get along with each other. Everyone's got their own scam. They can't get enough kids in there because everyone's running their own scam and they're all jealous of each other, but they're all in the same clan. They won't flip on each other, or if their kids are there, they're afraid the kids might flip or what. So get in there, have some Overwatch. You're spending the money in the wrong places. Yes, by all means, provide a safe learning space for socialization, learning, and protecting the children while their parents either go to school or work, right? That's government funded, right, to improve the people, but make sure that that money is being spent correctly. Every dime of it. I'm not talking about allowing a 10% shrinkage, right? A 10% theft, a 10% overcharge. I'm talking about if you're going to do it by the book. Earn a decent living. Hey, non-for-profits, this is funny, right? This was a good one. I've got a girl that went missing, right? And she went missing with her baby. And these girls are not the type of girls that should have full custody of their babies, right? Who knows if she's going to dump the baby in a dumpster and just go to her goofball boyfriend. But they're both listed as missing. So I'm trying to get some information, and the people for the not-for-profit that administered a group home would not let me in her bedroom that she had at this group home without a search warrant. They reported her missing. I'm investigating a missing person. I'm looking for a baby that's at risk. They won't let me in her bedroom. I says, how can you report her missing and not cooperate? How many people you got out looking for her? None. That's your job. I go, no, it really isn't. It really isn't. You have custody of this child. You are in local parentale, in local parenti, right?
Local parental. Yeah, parentis.
Local parentis of this child. Why aren't you out looking for her? Because if that was my child, I'd be out looking for her. So I go to their headquarters, right? And I talk to the guy in charge. And he goes to one of his workers. He goes, well, what information do you have on the girl? And the worker goes, we're working on it. I'm like, did she just say that to the boss? Right? And I looked at this guy, and he's a goof. He's sitting there probably making $250,000 doing nothing because he's part of the Klan. He's part of that Klan, all right? And he's getting paid to do nothing, and they're providing the crappiest living, the crappiest Overwatch, the crappiest food, and they're charging the state a huge amount of money, and they call it a not-for-profit because all the extra money that they make, right, that they don't spend on these kids, they pay in salary to the Klan, the people in charge. They get that as a salary. So when the end of the year comes, guess what? It's a clear slate. We made no money.
Yeah.
Because this guy who couldn't flip a burger for a living if he wanted to is making $250,000 a year. And so is his brother, and so is his mother and father, and then the uncle, right, who are in this non-for-profit. So this covers any government spending on any social program, right, that there is no, the schools, right, the charter schools, right? Charter schools are great because they actually teach the kids and they could actually expel the kids that are misbehaving. And the parents that have half a brain in their head want their kids there because their kids are safer and the kids are learning and kids have a chance in life now. But they do it for half the price of CPS. Well, do they kick that money back? No, it all goes to the investors. That's why you have to be one of the chosen few to invest into that. But without the CPS constantly raising the prices of teaching these kids, you're not making more money. So it's easy for you as the chief executive officer to go, yeah, we'll pay you more. We'll boost the property taxes. We'll pay more per capita per kid because my buddies that are invested in charter schools are now making more money. And who are they taking that money off of? The taxpayers. Right? And here's the thing, right? Yes, they actually provide a decent product. They're actually providing a product. Those kids have a chance. They're going to a charter school. They have a chance. So they're providing a product at half the price that CPS can. Why can't CPS do that? And a privately run organization under CPS teaching the same curriculum that CPS forces them to teach, right? How come they could do it for half the price? Because they're profit-oriented. They see where the money lies. If they had to do that, right, at cost, they would boost the cost up. Okay, we could teach your kid for $12,000 a year, but there's a $12,000 delivery charge on top of that. You know? Just like...
Yeah.
Anyway, so, Venezuela. I'm glad there was a very limited amount of loss of life, because I'm sure some Venezuelans died. That's sad, all right, that there was loss of life. But I'm 10 times gladder that there was no loss of life amongst our guys, all right? I'm very glad that we got out a criminal narco-terrorist. I'm hoping that at the beginning of the year here, that there's a chance that Venezuela can re-enter a free market economy, right, where the people that want to work can work, and the people that don't want to work can starve because they don't want to work, all right? instead of everyone starving equally. You know, that I'm hoping that they become a banner country for South America, that they become close allies against the war on drugs, which is chemical warfare against the United States. You know, the Chinese, when Mao took over, he cured a lot of his junkie and drug trafficking problem within China. I don't know if it's increased since or whatever, if it's got more illicit, but he cured it right away. It was called the 13-cent solution.
A bullet.
That's right. He gave the junkies a year to cure themselves, and he gave the dope dealers a year to get real work, right? And all of them that didn't after a year got 13 cents in the back of their head, and their families were billed for the bullet. And he cleared it up real quick. And no one's crying crocodile tears over all of them from, are they? No one stopped them. They could do it again. We got a drug problem. Boom, they cure it the same way. And no one in the mainstream media would say a word about it. Oh, it had to happen. Well, what about over here? Well, that's different. That's different. That's different. No, it isn't. Whenever they say that's different, it means it's exactly the same. What about this here? That's different. Nope, it's exactly the same. It's like the difference between ping pong and tennis, right, Paul?
Right.
Yeah. They're exactly the same, only totally different. And
correct.
So I don't know what topic we're going to speak about next week, but I'm sure something
something will come to the fore.
Something will come
Have
to
a great week, everyone.
Thanks, Paul.
Take care, Dennis. Take care, Brendan.
And everyone
Bye,
else
everybody.
who's watching. See you next week, Saturday at noon. You're here on the
Bye,
Chief
Mandy.
Guard of the Republic. And bye, Matt.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Matt.